afternoon, everybody. I hope you all are having a wonderful day. So, my name is Megha Goyal. I am working as a team lead here at Makeda. I am 4X Salesforce certified and I have been working on Salesforce for 5 years now. So, for today, my topic is ideas transformed into features on platforms. When you first saw this particular topic, you must have think that which all features or ideas are we going to discuss today. Does anybody wants to take a guess on what all features we will be discussing today? Any idea? Any guesses? No? Okay, so let me end the suspense right away. So today we will be discussing some of the ideas that are submitted on the Idea Exchange and which are later converted into features by Salesforce team. Okay, so before we delve into the slides, let me ask you another question. So how many of you are already familiar with Idea Exchange or have read or heard about it? Does anybody wants to explain what an Idea Exchange is? What is it about?
Idea Exchange is basically a platform where the people can write their ideas or whatever they want Salesforce to introduce to their platform. And if Salesforce find it really beneficial, we used to introduce it in the org or in the services.
Yeah, right. Anybody else? Okay, so this is what we have in our agenda today. First of all, we will be having a quick overview of Idea Exchange. Then we will be discussing all these ideas that are converted into features across different release cycle in 23. Okay, by 23 release cycle, I mean Windows 23, Summer 23, and Spring 23. So Idea Exchange is basically a platform that is provided by Salesforce to gather the feedback in the form of ideas. So you can post your new ideas, or you can even comment or vote on the existing ideas, and not just that, you can even contribute to the prioritization of the ideas for upcoming release cycles. So for accessing this particular website or the platform, you have to go with this link ideas.salesforce.com. So okay, so this is how this platform looks like. So here you will see you have multiple tabs like ideas, posts, prioritization, winners, FAQs, and about. Right? And you will see here that there have been thousands of ideas that have been posted on this platform by different people on this in the Salesforce community, and thousands of them have been converted into features by Salesforce team. Okay. For the sake of today's session, we won't be discussing all the ideas or all the features. We will be focusing on the selected ones. So the first one that we have in the list is custom address field. Okay. So let me open the Idea Exchange. So this was the original idea that was posted on the Idea Exchange, which was to add a new standard field type address type. Okay, so when you go to any idea, you will see that what is it about, and you will also able to see how many votes and also who has actually posted it, and also you can comment on it. So in order to submit your ideas or to vote on or comment on any of the ideas, you have to log in through your Trailblazer account. So let me go back to my slides. So this particular feature was released in the beta version in summer 22 and it was made GA in winter 23. So this gives us the ability to create custom address field. Okay, so this is kind of mimicking what we have with the standard address type field. So we can, with this particular feature, we can store address type data in a more structured way instead of storing them in the text area field or long text area field or having separate fields for each component field like state, country, etc. And we have, so this feature is not available out of the box, we have to first enable it. So let me show you how this looks in and out. If I'm going too fast, please do let me know. Okay, so to enable this setting, you have to go to user interface. this is the setting that is available to enable this feature, which is custom address field. Once you enable this feature, you cannot disable it. Okay. So though it's mimicking the features that we have with the standard address field type, there are some differences between these two fields. With the standard field, country and state field could be either text or it could be a picklist type. But when it comes to the custom address field, it will always be a picklist type. For the standard fields, configuring country and picklist state, country and state picklist values are optional. But when you have to use the custom fields, you would have to always define the, or you will always have to pre-configure country and state picklist in your own. Okay. So let me show you. Okay, you can create this field on any standard or custom object. Okay, so whenever you are using any of the custom address type field, you have to go and configure the state country's picklist values. It doesn't mean you have to enable the feature as well, which is this one, enable picklist for standard address field. It's entirely different, but in order to use the custom address type field, you have to do this pre-configuration, otherwise it won't work. So I'll just show you how to create an address type field. Okay. So in this data type list, you will be able to see a new data type which is of address type. Okay. So I have already created an address type field. I will quickly show you that to you, which is this one. So here you will see that I have created a field with the address data type. Now when so I've added this field on the page layout. So let's see how this looks on the page layout. So if you observe here in the address section, I have added this mailing address custom field. So for the country or for the state, you can see that it's actually a picklist field. Okay? But when you talk about the standard address type field, it could be a free text as well. Okay. So whenever you are accessing such kind of fields in your Apex code, or whenever you want to do any DML on these fields, you can access the field like any other custom field, which is like this, field name __ C. But let's say you have to access state or country or any other component field within the address type. So for that you have to use this particular thing, field name __, then component field name, and then you have to use the suffix __ s. Okay, let me execute one query in the query editor so that it will give no, it's for the custom address field. Okay, so this is the query that I'll be executing. So this is select ID, and then when I want to access the complete field, I can just simply write it like this. But let's say if I want to access the specific component or like state, country, or any other component, then to do that, you have to always write something like this. So by running this query, so you can even run this query with your Apex code in an anonymous window, or even when you are updating or creating the data in this particular field, you have to use this kind of syntax. Now when it comes to org limits for this custom address field, each component field is counted towards the org's allocation. Okay, so let's say if you have multiple component fields within this address type, like street, city, code, country code, state code. So each of these will be counted as separate custom field. Okay. Then again, it comes with certain limitation at this moment. So lead conversion, field sets, approvals, etc. are not supported with these custom address fields. at this moment. So whenever you want to use this feature, you might have to go to the list of the limitations and be prerequisite before you actually start using this. Any question on this? No? Okay.
I have a question.
Okay.
What is the significance of this data type that we can give it?
So yes, thank you. Huh?
I am saying significance of this data type.
Okay, so significance of this data type is to store data, like address type data in a more structured way instead of like earlier we used to have a text area field where whenever we have to process the data from a text area field, obviously we have to do some kind of string processing, right? Or you have to create separate custom fields. That is again very difficult to manage. So with this, you can store the data in more structured way. So that's the significance of this data type.
How can we say that we can enable the global state and particularly say that we can manage the standard values?
No, I didn't get it.
Standard address state we can manage comparatively when we enable standard state address list.
So for this one, you have to use that configuration. Okay, there is no option. You have to use that configuration.
We can manage it in big list.
Yeah, you have to manage it with separate. Right. Any other questions on custom address field? Yes.
And my question is, when there is a standard address field, then why we are using this?
Okay, there could be scenario where you have to store, let's say in this particular scenario, I was having an address field on the opportunity. And similarly, you could have address field on the custom object data. Okay? So this is where this will be used. Okay, so do you have any other questions? Okay, so next one is managing segmentation checklist values from Lightning Experience. So before this was released in summer 22-23, so with this particular enhancement, you do not have to switch from Lightning to Classic when you are modifying the checklist value for this particular tool. Okay. Next one is setting field level security on permission set. So whenever you create any custom field in your org, you generally get a step where you can actually define the permission on the profile level for that field. Now with this feature, you can actually define the field level permission for the permission set instead of the profile. So to enable this feature, you have to first of all go to your user management settings, and then you have to enable this feature. So once you have enabled this feature, whenever you are creating your custom field, you won't be able to provide the permission on the profile level when you are creating the field. Okay, so this feature is applicable only for those people who wants to use permission sets for the field level security instead of going with the profiles. Let me show you how this looks at here. I have to enable this feature first. So I have enabled the feature by creating a custom field on account. I'm just giving any random name for the demo purpose. Okay, so now you will see a difference over here. So when we are on this page for the field level security, instead of getting the list of profiles, you are actually getting the list of permissions. Okay, now this UI is quite user friendly because you can even have this checkbox which will filter out the permission set for which to which this particular object has access to. So let's say if you have 50 permission sets in your org and only for 4 permission sets you have given the access for this object, you will be able to filter it quite easily. Okay. So this was all about setting the field level security on the permission set. Any question on this? So the next one is increasing flow limit of 2000 executed element at runtime. Okay. So this particular so whenever so this particular limit is actually about the running instance of the flow. So it's not applicable for the whole transaction. So whenever you are executing anything and there could be multiple flows instances that is running within the transaction. So each flow instance will have this limit. So you can execute up to 2000 elements per flow interval. Okay. Now with the 57.0 release, this limit has been removed. But still, if you are having flows which are prior to this version in your org, you will still have to consider this limit. Okay. So this limit has been removed just for the 57.0 and later. Any question on this one? And definitely other governor limits are still applicable on the flows. Only this one is removed. Next one is embedding flow in LWC. So with this feature, you can embed any stream flow in your LWC component. So this is the syntax that you have to use. So you have a lightning flow, and inside the lightning flow, you have to define its attributes, which is flow API name. So you have to give the flow API name, and then you can even pass the input variable. And then whenever the status of the flow will change, then by the status I mean if it's finished or if it's error out. So you can even capture those status, and based on that you can do the handling. So let me show you a working demo of this. So this is the stream flow that I have created. So with this stream flow, what I have done is I'm creating context, and I have added some of the context fields over here. So like full name, account ID, so department and other fields. And I have added this particular stream flow in an LWC component. So here I have given the flow API name, create context, and then I have also passed some input variables. So whenever you want to pass any input variable, data type should be list of maps. Okay. So let me show you. So this is the input variable that I am passing. In order to pass any input variable to the flow, you have to create variables and you have to enable this particular setting available for input. Otherwise, you won't be able to pass data in those variables. So this is an array of maps. So here you have to define the name. So for me, name is contact data, and the type is S object for me. So if you look at this particular variable that I have created in the flow, its object type is contact, and then I have also for this particular thing I just want to pass the account ID. Okay. So what I'm doing here is I'm passing the account ID, which I'm capturing from the record page. So let me show you how this actually looks on an account page and how it works. So this is the LWC component that I have added on my account record page. And within this particular LWC component, I have the flow. So this is the flow. I have name, I have account name. So account name is auto-populated because I have passed the account ID from my LWC component, and then I have department, lead source, and other things. So this is how you can actually embed a flow within an LWC. Moreover, you can even handle the status changes. So let's say on the clicking on this finish button, I want to redirect this to contact detail page, or I want to show an alert. So all these activities I can do from here, and I can even read the output variable. So similar, the way we are passing the input variable, similarly we can even read the output variable from our flow. So in this case, maybe I would need contact ID so that I can redirect them to the contact detail page. So since the variable that I have made it available for the output, I could just read this student.detail output variable, and then I can iterate and find the variable that I want to use. Okay. So this is how you can embed your flows in the LWC. You can pass the data, you can get the data from your flow. Any question on this? Any question on how to embed flow in LWC? Not as such that I know. Any other question? Okay, let's move on to the next idea, which is filtering checklist values based on the record time. So it's again related to the flows, which is dynamic forms for flows. Let me go back to my flow. So when the dynamic forms were introduced in the flows, with that you can create stream flows, and you can actually use your schema fields by dragging and dropping from here. So with that, prior to this particular release, the problem was all the picklist values were available, and there was no option to filter them based on the record time. Now with this particular release, you can pass the record type ID to your screen element, and based on that it will automatically filter out the values. Okay, so here what I have done is, I have created just for the demo purpose, I have created a custom field on the account which is capturing the contact record type ID, and that I am passing in my screen element. So let me show you, just give me a second, how this filtering actually works. So you have to preset the record type ID before screen element is executed. Then only this filtering will happen, otherwise it won't happen. So I'm going back to this record that I have just created. So in this I have a field which is contact record type ID, which is basically a text field, and I'll be storing the contact record type ID over here. So I just copy the ID from here. So currently, if you look at the lead source, currently we have 5 values available. Let me provide the record type ID over here. Okay, now you will see that only 4 values are available based on the record type. So I'll show you the record type as well, just for the reference. So this was the field, and if I click on edit, the one of the picklist values are not available for this particular record type. Okay, so this is how filtering of picklist values will happen on the screen. Any question on this? Next one is view all button on the dynamic related list. So whenever you create any dynamic related list on with your Lightning app builder, currently the limit was that you could only view up to 30 records. Now with this release, you can have a view all button on the dynamic related list. So let me create a new case record so that we can have that button over here. Okay, so here you will observe that now we have a, so this particular component is actually a dynamic related list, this component. So if I click on view all, I'll be able to access all the cases that are attached to the account. Not all the cases, actually up to 2000 will be visible over here. And then you also have the ability to filter out the data dynamically at runtime. So this was the enhancement that was done on the dynamic related list. Okay, next one is accessing labels in Apex dynamically. So whenever you access labels in the Apex, generally it is returned based on the current user's language. Now, if any system admin is running the job or any process and they want to have labels in language, they have the ability to do that. So with this particular feature, they can there are two methods that has been added to the system.label class, using which you can pass the language in your methods, and based on the language that you have passed in the method, the custom label will be automatically translated. Okay, so there are two methods. First one is translation exists, which will check whether translation exists for this language or not, and the next one is get. Here you will observe that there is one more parameter that you have to pass, which is namespace. So if you are passing namespace as an empty string, it will automatically imply as org namespace, and if you are passing it as null, it will automatically imply your package namespace. So this is how this works. Otherwise, if you are accessing the custom label from some other managed package, you can pass the namespace of that managed package. Any question on these topics? I think this is a method added in Apex. I'm not sure if it's specifically for this is a general method added on Apex. Any other question on this? Okay, so the last one that we have over here in the list, which is specifying a delay in. So last one that we have over here is specifying a delay in scheduling queuable jobs. So this particular feature is actually partially delivered only because the original ask was to pass a datetime object in the queuable job. So at this moment that feature is not currently available, but what you can do is you can add a delay when you are enqueuing your job. So the delay can be from 0 to 10 minutes. So whatever, you cannot have the duration beyond that. So it's kind of limited at this moment. But there is one more functionality that has been provided by Salesforce with this, which is you can even have the org-wide default delay in your queuable job. So instead of adding delays for where you are enqueuing your job, you can even have a default value at org level. And definitely there are many more like mass delete checklist values or data loader UI changes or org-wide email addresses for permission set. So this is all that we have got agenda today.